Hi, ladies. So, this is a video follow-up for week 7 of the Manifestation Coaching Circle, where we're going to talk about EFT. Now, you should have received handouts in an email, not attached to the original meeting invite, but in actually 2 separate emails. If for some reason you did not receive them, and I'll show you what they look like in a minute, please let me know so that I can send them to you and they will match up with the video. Now, the reason I'm recording this and everybody else is not here, meaning the other little squares of our fellow friends, is that my computer did not record the meeting. So this will actually be a shorter version of what we normally do weekly, but I hope it will be just as beneficial as the normal meeting. Now, of course, we don't get to have our friends there, which is unfortunate, but we're going to make the best of it, right? We'll make the best of it. So this week we're talking about EFT, the emotional freedom technique, and that is a technique that I have been trained in since the early 2000s and has made a huge difference in my psyche and what I'm thinking and what I'm believing and what I'm feeling. This technique can be applied to not only limiting beliefs and negative self-talk, but it can be applied to pain, aches, headaches, cramps, whatever that might be bothering you. And the cool thing about it is that you get to talk about it, which sounds kind of strange, maybe, I don't know. But the point is that you get to talk about it in such a way that you describe what the problem is, right? So let me tell you a little bit about the emotional freedom technique. So it was developed in maybe in the, I believe around the early 90s. It was based on another technique that unfortunately I can't remember the acronym because it's been so long since I've learned it. And there was another gentleman by the name of Gary Craig who trained with this psychologist. He was a psychologist as well, and they recognized the connection between acupuncture points and the the energy or the flow and neural pathways, right? So what an acupuncturist does is they put needles in specific points where they identify that the energy, the natural flow of the energy within the body is not going on its normal path, right? And if you've ever seen a energetic or an acupuncturist chart, you'll see that it shows all the energy meridians or channels. We call them meridians, and those meridians terminate with hundreds of them in the top of our head, in the palms of our hands, and in the soles of our feet. So they are running throughout our body and communicating with our organs and with our brain and with, our senses. They are not nerves, they are energy meridians. So what Joe Dispenza talks about is that the neural pathways or the neurons that fire together wire together. So the thoughts that we have over and over and over again, like my favorite color is blue, my favorite color is blue, my favorite color is blue, then it becomes wired, right? And so what happens is it's our go-to. It's the path of least resistance in our brains. And when we have that path and it's of a negative nature, then what happens is it limits us, it stops us, it doesn't allow us to move forward, to get past it, if you will, because it becomes our truth. Now, using EFT, we can unravel that. We can break the pattern and choose a new pattern of thinking. And that is really helpful if we have beliefs that make us feel powerless, or we feel we have a pain and we keep having that pain over and over again. It becomes part of the way we think, right? And we can change that. We can alleviate it. We can release it. And that is what EFT is all about. So one of the things that we have to understand is that these energy pathways are, are natural. They are part of every human being, probably part of every animal. Never checked on it, but probably. I can't imagine why there wouldn't be these pathways in animals as well, because they are living, breathing creatures as well. So what we're talking about is changing those patterns, those neural pathways, and breaking that bond. So what happens is when the energy is flowing in our body and things are well, we are doing well, we're happy, we're in a state of positivity, we feel good, then the chi, the energy is running well. When we have a trauma or an upset, or for instance, when I was in college, I dated this guy who loved to scare me. He'd stand behind the door and, like just really rattle my cage. And it was shocking every time. And so, like, I was always on guard anytime he was around, expecting that. Now, that was not the same guy I married, thank goodness. But the thing is that, that put me on edge and created a neural pathway that says, be careful, beware, be conscious, be ready. And so I was always on high alert. Well, that's not good for our body and our systems. And because when we're always in high alert, there's more cortisol going out into our bodies to be ready for fight or flight. And, it's not really healthy. So that in the long term can, not just that instance, but too much of that can lead to disease. So disease may show up in, tenseness in your shoulders, and you're holding your shoulders up all the time near your ears, or back pain, or many other things. So it's something to keep in mind, that if you're feeling something, an ache or a pain, look to see if maybe there's something that might be attached to it and when it started, because that will give you a really good idea. Okay. So the tapping alleviates the disruption in the chi. So the chi is naturally flowing. And when my ex-boyfriend from long ago would startle me, it would kind of cause my chi to go wumpy job, right? And so tapping brings it back into alignment. And that's where we want to be, because that's the healthiest place for us to be, both physically and mentally. So in the handout that I sent you, it says from stuck to unstoppable, achieving extraordinary results with EFT. This was a document I created that was it's turned out to be part of my upcoming book, Tap Into Your Power, which will, by the way, I'll talk to you about at the end of the video about the book release party. So what I can tell you is that the tapping points are different. Let me back up for just a second. So instead of using needles like an acupuncturist does, we're going to use 2 fingers, and we're going to tap in various locations. Now, this is an algorithm, if you will. There is a system to this. Now, if you get it wrong and you skip a point, no big deal. But the thing is, it's not a problem, but the thing is, you want to try to hit them as many of them as possible. So there are 9 of them. And here's a little chart, and you'll see this in your handout, that shows you each of the tapping points. Now, top of the head is not the first, it's actually the last place we're going to go. Okay. So when we tap, in a minute, my camera will meet me again. When we tap, we start with the side of the hand, which we call the karate chop. It's that meaty place right here. And we can tap on either hand. It doesn't matter. When I'm driving and sometimes I need to tap, I'm tapping on the steering wheel or on the gear shift. So you can do it like this if you'd like. Okay. So this is just one of a couple places we can use as our starting point, but I'm only going to teach you the one to keep things as clean as possible. Okay. So this is what we call the karate chop point. The next point is our eyebrows. Where the eyebrow begins is also an acupuncture, or in this case, an acupressure point, okay? The one after that, we call that the eyebrow, or EB, and then side of the eye is SB, or side, no, that would be SE. And then under the eye, under the nose, okay? And then in the divot, just below the lip, not on the chin, but in that divot right there, okay? Following that, we tap on the collarbone, which is up here pretty high. So it's not down here, although this could work as well. But the collarbone is key, right around the collarbone, just a little south of it, if you would. And then under the arm, what would be where your bra strap is, if you're a woman, and just, not in the armpit, but just below it, and then top of the head. So when I am tapping on collarbone, I'm using 4 or 5 fingers. When I'm doing under the arm, I'm using my fingers, not my thumb typically, because that's kind of hard to get in there. And the top of the head, I'm using all 5 fingers because I want to hit as many meridians as possible. Okay. So Those are the 9 points. Now, how we start this is we identify something that's causing us some trouble. So we might say, I'm feeling some stiffness in my shoulders today. I'm feeling really tight and it's uncomfortable. I'm having a hard time moving my head. So this is how the flow would go. All right. So for each point, we're going to tap 5 to 7 times. Okay. And usually I tap until I finish whatever, tap in the same location until I finish that sentence. Okay. My description of what I'm experiencing. And then I move on to the next point and choose another description of what I'm experiencing. So we start with the karate chop inside of the hand, and we use this statement to open with. Even though I feel this tension in my shoulders, I love and accept myself. And so by saying that, I'm identifying the problem and saying, in spite of the fact that I am experiencing this, I love and accept myself just the way I am. Now, sometimes when it's a body part, I will say, I love and accept my body just the way it is, so that my body gets the message that I'm not upset with it, that it's not I'm not unhappy with it. I want my body to know I'm happy with it, right? So we say this sentence or some variation of it. We only work on one topic at a time, but we say, even though I have this tension in my shoulders, I love and accept myself. And then we say it 2 more times. Even though I've got this tightness in my shoulders, so we might have changed it just a little bit, I love and accept myself just the way I am. Even though I'm feeling this tension in my shoulders, I love and accept myself. Okay. So that's how we start it. We're identifying the problem and accepting it as it is, right? And then we move to the eyebrow and we say, this tension in my shoulders, this is where we describe it, right? Side of the eye. I feel like my shoulders are up around my ears and then under the eye. And I feel like my shoulders are really tight. I can't seem to move my neck easily, let's say. And then we move to the next point. And the next point might be, it must be all the stress I've been experiencing. Then we move to the next point. Yeah, I recognize that I have been under a lot of stress and I'm trying to get a lot done in a short period of time. And the next point might be, I feel a little out of control. I feel like I can't control all the things that are going on. Under the arm, I feel like I should be in control, but dang, I don't think there's enough time for me to get it all done. And then we have the top of the head and we say, all this tension I've been feeling in my shoulders, I'm storing it in my shoulders. Okay. And then we take 2 deep breaths. So you'll notice that the progression of each one is just the story we're telling about it, right? And we look for descriptions. What does it feel like? What does it look like? What else? Where might it be coming from? And we're just acknowledging all of it. And so when we acknowledge it, we've already accepted the fact that we created it by saying, I love and accept myself anyway. And then we can let it go, right? Because even if it's an outside situation, let's say somebody got angry with us, right? And they yelled at us and we felt horrified and embarrassed and whatever. We still had a role in that. We chose to feel horrified and embarrassed. It could be, it's like, well, that you could have a totally different response and go, that person is nuts. I don't know what their problem is, and not ever take on those other emotions. So the thing is we can shift it and we're acknowledging our role in it. So after you take the 2 deep breaths, you're likely going to feel more relaxed. And while I was tapping, at one point I saw my shoulders drop and I went, oh, I didn't know I had tension in my shoulders. So the thing is that this technique can be used on just about anything. And it is highly powerful. So I want you to practice with it. And I want you to know that with every round, you are reducing it lower, and whatever the tension is or the intensity is, you're reducing it lower and lower. So what's also helpful is for you to get an idea of what the intensity level is before you start tapping. So we call that a SUDS level or an intensity level. SUDS stands for subjective something, something, something. I forgot. But anyway, the point is that you identify what that level is from 0 to 10. And when you do, you go, oh, okay, my shoulders, I'm feeling really stressed and tense on my shoulders. That feels like it's about a 6. And then you ask your body again, you check in with your body, and how does it feel now? Well, it feels like it's down to about a 3. So 3 is great, but it's not a 0, and we are striving for 0. So then what you would do is do another round of tapping, starting at the eyebrow, right? You don't have to do a karate chop because you've already identified the problem and said that you accept and love yourself anyway. So now we're back to the eyebrow again, and we go, this remaining tension. I choose to release this remaining tension. I don't really need it. It's not helping me move forward. It's not motivating me. I'm choosing to let it go now. And then I love it being proactive. I'm choosing to let it go now because that means that you have the power to do something about it. And I love that idea. So what I want you to do is try this until you on one specific topic and see if you can get that down to 0. When you get it down to 0, that will be ideal. Okay. So one of the things that people often tell me is that they get the tapping points and everything. However, they don't know what to say. And granted, I've been doing it since 2002-ish, maybe even 2001. So I've had a lot of practice. And that's why it comes easy for me, because I've used it so many times on so many different issues. So what I created was a form called the EFT prep form. And it looks like this. And I filled it out with an example that you won't have the example in front of you, but we're going to go through it. But let me just run across it. Now, it was one of the handouts that I emailed you. So if you didn't get that one, you want to definitely let me know so I can send it to you. So at the top of the page, it says the issue. And let's see if it's possible that I can share the screen with you. Wouldn't that be cool if I could do that? Yep. Okay. I could share the screen with you. And then that way you can look on, okay? So you'll notice that that at the top it says the issue. And in this case, we're using the idea or the issue of my boss has called an unexpected meeting with me, and that has put me on edge, and I'm worried and concerned. Like the worst could happen. I could lose my job and be embarrassed and so many other things, right? So what I did was I said, okay, that's the issue. And my intensity level is at a 9 because I don't like being called into my boss's office, right? And the limiting thoughts and beliefs that I'm holding about it are the things in that first column. That first column says I'm scared, I'm not sure about what to expect, I feel like I'm going to get fired, and that's frightening. I'm feeling unsure of myself from our last meeting. I still, I keep revisiting the past and running that story over and over in my head. It's just one more thing on my already full plate. I don't need this distraction. Maybe I'm not knowledgeable enough to do this job or be in this industry. So it's all crap that we tell ourselves, right? Because we're trying to come to terms with the situation. Now, when it comes to negative emotions, we've got hurt, angry. Maybe we're angry. We feel awful, frustrated, worried, concerned, scared. All of those, I mean, it could be overwhelm. It could be, just lots of different things that we might be experiencing. But we write all those in there, no matter how small they are. We write them in. If we can identify them, we want to put them in this column. Okay. And then the next one is what have others said to us? So maybe someone has said to you, you really got to get your numbers up or you're going to get fired, or perhaps the boss says something like that. Or they tell you, oh, you've got to do it this way, but that way doesn't work for you because you don't understand it, or it takes too long, or it's impractical for the way your mind works, right? Or it could be that you're reminiscing about, in a bad way, about a previous boss who threatened you, trying to motivate you, and that didn't work at all. So those are all the negative things that we're going to use when we tap. And then the last column is the preferred or positive thought that we want to have, right? Or feeling that we want to have. So I want to start that tapping round when we get to it. I want to start that with, I choose to feel, right? You can even use I choose to experience. I like I choose to feel because it feels very powerful to me. And sometimes we can't choose our experience. We can certainly choose how we interpret it, but we can't necessarily choose how it rolls out. So I choose to feel safe. I choose to feel successful. I choose to feel capable. So you can use this sheet as a sample. And then when you're working on your own issues, follow this pattern so that you know what goes in each category. Okay. We're going to go through the tapping, and we're going to use these phrases for our tapping round. Now, when we tap out all the negatives, we are going to then tap in the positives. And I love the balance of tapping out all the negatives first and then tapping in the positives, because I like to think of it like tapping out all the negative releases and opens up a void, if you will, that is waiting to be filled with something positive. So think about it from that point of view. And I always like to, like I said, generate some positive energy after the fact so that we're releasing that. Okay. So let's start tapping together. All righty. All right. So if you'll start with me on the karate chop point, and we'll do this together. And if you'll just mimic me and do what I do and say what I say. You don't have to say the tapping point name, but the rest of it. Okay? Okay. So even though my boss has called a meeting, I love and accept myself just the way I am. I love and accept myself just the way I am. Got it? Okay. Even though my boss has called this meeting and I'm really scared, I love and accept myself just the way I am. Even though my boss has called this meeting, and every time he calls a meeting, it's not good, I love and accept myself just the way I am. Okay, now we're going to move to the eyebrows. Remember where it starts. We're going to tap with 2 fingers. Okay, we're going to work on the negatives. So I am so scared. Side of the eye. I don't know what he wants to talk to me about. Under the eye. I don't know what to expect. Under the nose. Am I going to get fired? In the chin divot. I'm so unsure of myself from the last meeting. Collarbone. I keep revisiting the past. Under the arm. It's just one more thing on my already full plate. Top of the head. Maybe I'm not knowledgeable enough about this job or this industry. Now we're going to work on the negative emotions. Inner eyebrows. All this hurt. All this anger. Under the eye. I feel so anxious and awful. I have all this frustration. This feeling of worry. This feeling of concern. Under the arm. I feel so scared. Others tell me I have to do things a certain way, and it just doesn't work for me. Inner eyebrow. Am I going to lose my job? Some people say I'm going to lose my job. Now we're going to tap in the positive. Side of the eye. I choose to feel safe. I choose to feel successful. I choose to feel capable. I choose to feel calm. I choose to feel focused. I choose to feel secure. And I choose to feel in control and happy. Okay, take 2 deep breaths. So even though I don't have a boss that's called me into a meeting that I might be in trouble, my situation kind of thing, I feel a little calmer just because I tapped on that. And that's the idea of borrowing benefits and getting something back from it. So I really encourage you to duplicate that sheet I sent you and use it on multiple items. if you can use it on something like a meeting or a conversation that didn't go well, it doesn't even have to be current. It can be from sixth grade, it could be from any time in your life. It could be some pain. All of it, you just describe it and talk about what it is and what you'd like it to be. And when you do that, it will shift the energy around it and the intensity level will come down. So in this case, our intensity level for this conversation was a 9. And I feel, even though it's not mine, I was imagining it, I feel like it's about a 2 right now. So there might be a few extra things that could be tapped on that might have come up in my awareness or memory or my emotions as I was doing that tapping round. And so if I'm do that, if I'm going to get rid of those and get it to 0, then I just start right back here, not on the karate chop, because you've already talked about it, remember? And then you just talk about what's left. And then you can tap in some more positive if you like. Okay, this is such a powerful, powerful technique, and I know that it's going to be incredibly helpful to you. So wherever you have noticed resistance, or in the past you've experienced a trauma or disappointment or hurt, select that item. In fact, start a list and then select that item and tap on it and do a tapping around on it. You don't have to do a chart on every single one of them. You might be able to do it off the top of your head and work through the 9 tapping points and see if you don't feel a lot better. And then once you're through that item, check it off. Move on to the next one that's on your list, because the more you clean up your energy, the more you're going to be able to maintain that high vibration of positivity and positive expectation, which is going to bring everything into alignment for you that the universe has. It's just waiting for you to catch up with it. So let's get more intentional and positive about things. And if you get stuck, reach out to me. If there's something that's getting in the way or you're struggling with, please text me and I will work on it for you while you work on it. And I believe between the two of us, we will get it taken care of. But please don't wait. Okay. Reach out to me if you need me, because I am here for you. All right. So next week is our last session, and I look forward to seeing you then. And until then, take care and know that you are loved. We'll see you later.